These are the best in the world. These guys, and we're going to end up with about 120, the way it looks like. And yet, and you're right. We have over 200 politicians right now. They're representing over 30 states, and then we have all the media coming. And what we're going to do, Steve, is we're going to have like 4 different sections set up. One of them is the first thing we're going to do is pass out the states to the cyber forensic expert. What I mean by that is the raw data, the packet captures and the data from that whole state. So we give it to, let's say, a group of 10 of these experts. Now, they don't know each other, and they're all going to dig in, and they're going to go validate this data. Then we're going to have another section where I've already had the data validated. I have it all, and the packet captures. It's going to call it a cyber center. To the right of the main stage is going to be all these computers where a senator can actually, or a politician can go up there, put in the name of his state, or put in a county, or put in whatever he wants, the whole election, and then out's going to come the real count, what really happened the night of the election. Now, he can take that, and he can go over to his own cyber guy and say, hey, could you look at this thing? Yeah, validate this for me. And they're going to validate it. He's going to go, wow, this is non-subjective evidence, everybody. And also, we're going to have another room where we're going to have these mock elections going on every hour on the hour, these mock elections. And we're going to we'll go, hey, just in, let's go in where the mock elections are. We'll have the camera crew in there, and this will be live streamed too. But in there, we're going to show everybody, we're going to have a cyber guy in another room where he can't hear or know anything. We're going to do the flips just like they did the night of the election. And then we're going to show the whole public what a packet capture is. And we're going to pull them off the routers, everybody. When we do Arizona, it's going to be very interesting why Arizona won't give up them routers, because we're going to show you why they don't want to give up the routers. So we do this flip. We're going to come in, the cyber guy. We're going to pull the packet captures out of the routers. And then we're going to have a cyber guy. He'll read it and he'll go, here's what happened. Computer ID, boom. Here's who did it. Here was the attacker. Here was the attackee. Here's how many votes.
Hey, folks, welcome to the crap. Yes, culture, race, and American politics. It's really interesting. The reason we played Mike Lindell clip for you, as you know, he's in court for the jury trial at the moment. And so people have the machines once again at the top of their mind. At the same time, I've been getting on X, many people dropping me kind of little tidbits and stuff about the machines, etc. So I've decided to go a little bit deeper for you and put you kind of in the driver's seat, in the theme of a jury trial, since Mike's going through a jury trial, to put you in the driver's seat and see how far we've come, or are we still where we were in 2020? Because remember, my job is to share with you how they do it to you. So, in fact, you can defend against it, because you can't defend against it if you don't know how they do it to you, right? It's just that simple, folks. You cannot defend against it if you don't know how they do it to you. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. I've got a website for you, JovanLovesGold.com. JovanLovesGold.com. Folks, you need to pay attention to precious metals. I know that some of you may think, they're just trying to sell gold, or they're just trying to sell silver. I would think you need to understand that's kind of making an excuse for yourself not to look, because that's not really the goal. The goal is to make sure you don't get clobbered when the government does what it is expected to do. Now, there's a huge difference in that. What kind of friends would we all be with each other if we didn't help each other out and said, hey, take a look? That's the deal, folks. If you, again, don't know how they do it to you, how can you protect against it? You've got to understand how there's so much manipulation going on. You think about these big companies that own stock in everybody, right? They go into these corporations, we'll just get rid of your stock if you don't do what we say, because they can hurt them that way. Well, they move us around like pawns. Millions and millions and millions and millions of people in retirement programs. And you don't get to self-direct it. You don't even get the full benefit of it. You don't. They do. That's the system, folks. But what I am worried about every day, and I look at now with the GOP taking their little vacation and not necessarily wanting to codify the Doge cuts and what's been found and get rid of it. That tells you where they stand. They want their money. And unfortunately, what they call their money is your money. I'm worried about the time when we go to a digital dollar. I truly am. And it's coming. It's inevitable, folks. It's going to happen. You know, they just finally voted to get rid of the penny. Did I read that right? It's coming. I don't want you caught off guard. I don't. Please, please, please click the link below. Go to the website provided by my fine partners at Goldco and just get your free gold and silver kit. Just get the information, folks, and feed your brain. Let me tell you something about the penny. You got to be smart. Let me give you an example. And I'm going to tell you how you too, if you understand the ins and outs and how the system works, you can outwit the system. But I'm going to use the penny as an example. How many of you have walked into a mall, a pizza place, it doesn't matter, and there's this, it looks like a big funnel kind of sitting on the floor, and you take a little bitty penny and you put it in it and you watch it run around the funnel. Cheap entertainment, right? What you don't know is that device is really an excellent device of entrepreneurs. See, decades ago, the United States of America stopped making pennies out of pure copper. And so they went to cheaper metals, nickel, zinc, stuff like that, right? And so where you're kind of playing a little amusement game with a penny, here's what's going on behind the scene. Everywhere it says, dump your pennies, get rid of your pennies, give us your pennies or whatever. Well, when you run it in that little thing and running around that you're amused at, when that penny hits the bottom, it's actually hitting a scale, right? A scale. And that scale weighs the penny. Now, why does it weigh the penny? Well, the newer, cheaper zinc pennies go this way, and the copper pennies go that way. Now, a lot of these say this money is donated to a good cause. Well, yes, it is. See, the zinc pennies that go that way aren't really worth a penny, and they donate them all day long. But the penny that goes this way, that is pure copper, they keep. Why? Because that penny, depending upon how the market fluctuates, is actually worth 4 to 5 cents in copper. That's a 400% increase in money you got free. Now, why have people been doing this for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades? Because they eventually knew the government would get rid of the penny. Now, right now, to melt that penny down for the copper weight was against the law. You couldn't do that. It's destroying money. However, now that they've raised that, all of these people who have saved massive tons of pennies, you're going to see a mad rush for them to turn them in for copper. Millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars are going to be made over a very short few days of people finally being able to take their pennies in. See, that's working to understand the system and understand the facts behind it. That's why I tell you, please go to jovanlovesgold.com. You're going to have to learn this stuff. You have to learn this stuff, right? you have to protect yourself. And there are many, many ways to protect yourself. And by the way, you might get up to $10,000 in free silver if your account qualifies. And by the way, folks, the reason I do stuff like this, even like write the books, is I just don't want you caught off guard. Grow a garden, plant it once, plan, P-L-A-N, plant it, let it feed you for decades. It can be done. You love fruit, but you don't want to wait for right? You don't want to wait for the tree to mature 4 or 5 years. You can hack it and do it, or even planting. You don't want to weed. You don't want to dig. Well, you can do that too. Everything I do is to try to benefit your life in some way. By the way, don't forget, one of the things I used to benefit my life was trimming down. I've been working on it, right? And I began to use this product, Lean, which comes from the fine folks at Brickhouse Nutrition. I'm going to read you some descriptions of weight loss. You're going to probably think it's about the injection stuff, but it's not. It came from Lean. Patty said, I finally found a weight loss product that works. I want to lose 20 pounds, and bang, Lean really curbs my appetite. Lori said, I struggle to get weight off, and Lean has been a lifesaver. She's losing a couple of pounds a week or more. And Kelly said, amazing. I noticed the energy boost. And by the way, I did too. I noticed the energy boost. That's what I noticed. See, Lean was created by a doctor and university researcher to target the goals of the GLP-1s. Did you know you had some GLP-1s in there? Yeah. That's what the injections do, but they do it without injections, without a prescription, because the studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower blood sugar, radically reduce your appetite, burn fat by converting it to energy. So here you go. If you're struggling to lose weight and healthy diet and exercise just isn't doing it for you, Lean might be what you need. Let's get you started with 20% off. Use promo code Jovan20 at takelean.com. That's promo code Jovan20 at takelean.com. Again, that's promo code Jovan20 at takelean.com. Right? By the way, we got a code right there. Why don't you just zap that code? Zap it, baby. Just use your phone or take a picture of your screen. Zap the code. Go right there. Don't put it off. Get going. It's the way you can take back some control in your crazy life. By the way, I don't know if you joined me on the other program. When I left, I did this special on Lindell versus Coomer. I'm going to do a part 2 today. Here's how you join me. Immediately following this program, I'm going to jump to my locals, Jovan, Hutton, Pulitzer.locals.com. If you're on Rumble, you'll see a little red oval. Just click that, and you can join me. Also put the link in chat. People will share it. I've got a very interesting part 2, and I'm going to push your limits, and I want to see what you think, because we're all in this fight together, and we're going to be judged by whatever happens in this court case. Therefore, I'm going to put you to the test, baby. And if you fail, I might have to assign you some extracurricular stay over late work, if you know what I mean, about elections. So share this program right now. We are about to get started, and we're going to clear some of that cluttering crap out of your cranium, and you might see things much clearer than you have in a while. Let's get started.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians? The elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused emotional socialist snowflake crowd. Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, folks, we're going to do some crap excavating. It's going to be for your benefit. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. Hey, shout out Jan or Pascal or Michaela, right? I even got a sandwich till the end. Over on Instagram, do you know you can watch the program? You might not know this, but a good way to carry me around in your pocket is Instagram. You can do it, right? Shout out to all the folks on Getter. Hey, thanks for being here. Okay, now look, I want you to think about grabbing a pen and paper, or at least do this in your mind, because I'm going to give you a little bit of a test. You'll see this pop up. It's called reinforced learning, folks. And you're going to have choices. A, it's the machines. B, it's people. C, it's paper, right? D, it's programs. Those are going to be your choice. A, B, C, D. Some of them might be a combo. You'll answer in chat, right? You'll answer in chat and watch the screen down to the bottom. I'm going to, guys in chat, like Twitch and X, put A, B, C, D like in your chat real quick. Just pop it in your chat. And for those of you that are just kind of watching, right, you'll kind of see it popping up. There's a delay to it. You'll see it popping up on the bottom of your screen. And you'll see how other people vote. There'll be a little bit of a delay, but you'll be able to see it. So we're going to do some voting. Thanks, Henry. See A, B, C, D. See it pop up on the tiny bottom part of right of your screen. So we're going to do a little bit of voting today. Yeah, they're telling me I need K for knockers, but hey, I can't do that. I don't have any knockers to show you. Now, you may have some knockers to show me, but I haven't received them in my programming yet. Okay. First few things. I'm doing this because, Mike Lindell is having a trial by jury regarding it's the machines and Dominion did it and all that stuff, okay? Here's an interesting thing. Don't you love Sooner women? I hear Sooner women are wild. But an OK Sooner sent this to me. I think she's more than okay. I think she's awesome. But okay. Says, look like we won't get any public statements from the real Mike Lindell for the rest of the trial. Here's a little clip. And I'm just going to read it. On June 4th, 2025, in the defamation trial against MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell in Denver, Colorado, the court addressed concerns about Lindell's compliance with media orders. Attorneys for Eric Coomer, the former Dominion voting system executive suing Lindell, filed a notice alleging that Lindell violated court instructions by speaking to the press during the lunch break and posting on X via his real Mike Lindell account during the trial. Judge Nina Wang admonished Lindell for these actions, which included texting, tweeting, and giving media interviews, but did not hold them in contempt of court. Instead, she issued a warning. Lindell's legal team acknowledged he did a poor job, imagine that, following the court's instructions, but stated he did not intend to violate the orders. Lindell and his team agreed he would refrain from further public statements during the trial. I ask, man, with all the way the media wanted to shove nothing happened down our throats, why are they not broadcasting this particular trial? And why did they broadcast the Tina Peters trial and not this one? Well, this is why I'm going to kind of do a refresh, because here's what's going on. The deep statement, must know my ex, deep statement. Now, here's what's interesting. Deep State, who does not follow me, always check when somebody comments something and I look at it, I always see if they follow me. I assume it's a he. Well, Jovan, Pulitzer. Okay, now let me read this. By the way, I want to show you something. You see that where it says Charlie Kirk commentary? You see a lot of things like that, like Ivanka Trump News, Barron Trump News. Those are not family accounts. Those are somebody creating accounts on somebody's name and only retweeting their stuff. Now, some of these things will get a few million followers, right? And then after all this is over, they just change it to their name and they get a few million followers. Nifty trick. I kind of think it's crap. Yeah, you're right. You think you're dialoguing. I see people amplify quotes from Tucker, but it's Tucker News. It has nothing to do with Tucker. Anyway, ready for this? Breaking. Georgia's Dominion voting system declared a wrong winner for the May 22nd, 2024 DeKalb County, Georgia District 2 Commission primary. Even the machine recount was wrong. A hand recount found the voting machines removed 74% of the real winners. Now, that's a big deal, right? But I've always told you, and by the way, thanks for the thumb down. I appreciate any time Cause of America or you guys can be here with my program, and you need to learn too, so I understand that. I'm going to read this again because words matter. And I'm going to help you define things, word matter. Now, this picture is not from Lindell's case. Lindell's case, there are no recording devices, no cameras, no nada, okay? But let me read this for you again. Breaking Georgia's Dominion voting system, at least they got that right, declared a wrong, not the judge, a wrong winner, that's the wrong one, for the May 22nd, 2024 DeKalb County, Georgia District 2 Commission primary. Even the machine recount was wrong. A hand recount found the voting machines removed 74% of the votes for the real winner. The voting machines removed 74% of the votes for the real winner. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I try to help you understand words matter. You just got to understand it. Words freaking matter, folks. If we were to go back in time, remember, we were authorized by the court in Georgia, and I'm going to use Georgia as the basis for this, in Georgia, to get 150,000 ballots. Now, which we know were never folded, but they called them mail-in ballots, and some of them had absolutely perfect ovals. Reading the little fine print there, it says the suit sought an outside review, that's me, of nearly 150,000 absentee ballots cast in the county, arguing that people who participated in the hand recount of the election claim to have seen absentee or mail-in ballots that suspiciously weren't creased and don't look like they were marked by hand. So when you hear those things, that's my team. That's the forensics we do. Now, what has it been? 4 years, 6, 7, 8 months, right? Now, we still don't have those ballots, and I completely don't believe that Georgia has even kept them like they were supposed to. But when we were on the edge of looking at those ballots, and this is going to relate to Arizona, it's going to relate to every other state, so pay attention. A so-called Republican who was involved in the quote-unquote auditing mix, blah, 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 blah. His name's David Cross, released something that should have never been released. And it's that we knew we would find duplicated ballots. I already knew we had them in the images, which I'm going to show you a few things of how you do this. We knew it. I already knew it. The court gave me those images. So I don't sit in Georgia. So it was given to the team. The team duplicated the fob, gave it as a favor to Garland Favorito, and who I'm doing it for, which are the actual litigants. I got the copy. I gave my analysis. But Garland passed a copy to this fellow by the name of David Cross. Double cross, David Cross. And he did some analysis, which he didn't do. He hired a programmer to run the images. And this has kind of been the case all over, because he put out on social media, well, we can see duplicated ballots. Here it is. And a lot of people covered that story. CanCon, Lumberjack, some of these people. And man, I got on the phone real quick and I said, guys, you probably just cost us this audit in Georgia, and asked them to take down those interviews. All of them did except one, and David Cross just would not stop talking. Well, long story short, the judge, who had everything ready to go and was fine, as soon as the system knew that we could find the duplicates, even using the cheap versions, all hell hit it. They sent incredible amount of attorneys in. And I believe somebody scared the judge, and the judge kicked the can. So we lost it. Now, a lot of what I'm going to show you today is very important, because it 100% codifies what we found in Arizona. And that's what you need. Multiple states doing it, not just one. Well, here it is, 4 years, 6, 8 months later, right? And we still don't have them. I don't believe they exist anymore. Oh, no, by the way, the double cross that released it, he's now running for the chairmanship of the GOP in his area of Georgia. So he's going to be aptly rewarded for what he did. This is why it's very important. You need to understand how to play this game, defense tactics, battle tactics, war tactics, everything else. But you must understand 100% what you're looking at. Okay, now let's get started. You know that little piece that the person taunted me? Wow, come on, looky. Well, here's what he wanted me to looky at.
On election night and the days following, it appeared that the results that were coming off the tabulating machines were not accurate. A decision by the board was made to do a hand recount to ensure accurate results of the election.
Wasn't that the DeKalb County Election Board attorney? Play it again, Sam.
And a decision by the board was made to do a hand recount to ensure accurate results of the election.
What? Isn't that what I've been saying for 20 years?
Do a hand recount.
Okay, I'm just going to play it again outside of the people trying to be social media influencers. What? Play it again, Sam. Anyway, listen closely.
On election night and the days following, it appeared that the results that were coming off the tabulating machines were not accurate. A decision by the board was made to do a hand recount to ensure accurate results of the election.
Okay, so the bottom line is the counts didn't match. The counts didn't match. Okay? Now that's a big deal. What I'm attempting to help people understand is if we want to make this count, pun intended, you have to understand how those counts come in. If you understand how the counts potentially come in, then you can understand how it was done. And remember, if you don't know how they do it, you can't defend against it. By the way, Coffee Gal, thank you, sweetheart, so very much for supporting our program. And all of the donations go for just so we can try to keep the evidence alive from the full forensic audit for the use of hopefully ultimately Supreme Court, at least for history. Okay. So I'm going to take you through these things and I'm going to get you primed. Okay. I'm going to get you primed so you can get your detective on and decide what are you looking at. Is that okay? And don't forget, I'll be doing part 2 of Lindell versus Coomer right after this. Here's your choices. You might want to write them down. So when I ask you to vote, A is machines did it. B is people did it. C is paper did it. D is programs did it. A is machines did it. B is people did it. C is paper did it. D is programs did it. And by the way, it can be a combination. Okay, I'm going to show you a few things. This is the stuff that got exposed from this fellow, David Cross, that absolutely made sure with all the little broadcasts, oh, breaking news, I'm stopping my smoke hooch shop to now be a reporter on elections. I quit working Taco Bell so I can show you about votes. This is some of the information that got out public that I already knew. We knew it, hands down. But remember, just a very simple thing. If it's electronic, it falls under voluntary voting systems. Remember that. If it's electronic in nature, it falls under voluntary voting system guidelines. You get it? It's voluntary. If it's paper, it's not the VVSG. If it's paper and it's found, it's a felony, both at the state and the federal level. Okay? Understand the role of paper. Now, here's what we found. What we already knew. A lot of people released it as breaking news. Okay. Now, this is a very easy ballot to see. Of course, it's not the full ballot, right? Come on. It's just a shot. Do you see it? Now, the reason this particular ballot is so just easy to use is it's got handwriting on it. So you see the vote in was a write-in for John Lewis at top. A write-in at the bottom, write-in was W.E.B. Du Bois. Okay? Now, here's what we already knew. We knew in these electronic images, this ballot existed. But many, many batches later, this is batch number 11. This is a batch number 11. In batch 35, it appeared again. Now, again, this is why this is called kinematic detection. Kinematic only means the physics study of motion. That's what it means, motion. So if somebody was to write on a ballot, if somebody was to write on a ballot, is there motion involved? Yes, there is. And there's systems involved. But putting pen to paper is motion. There's an impact. Okay, so it's kinematic. Artifact is the writing, and you're detecting, okay, what was done with it. Now get ready, okay, just so you understand. This was batch 11. Let's just look at the bois. Look at the B in bois. Just use that as your anchor, right? Well, in batch 35, see that it's the same one. You can see it, right? There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Now, it's obvious that ballot, now remember, this is what's called the cast vote record. This is the electronic image of the ballot. This is what's called, in this case, this would be the post image. And I'm doing very easy ones for you so you can pick out the very distinct nature of these things, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a test, and I want you to vote. This ballot here, and you got to be very exact, folks. This ballot here, okay, and just so you know, this John Lewis got a vote here, and W.E.B. Dubois got a vote. And then when it was run again, John Lewis got a vote, and W.E. Dubois got a vote, okay? Get it? Here's your quiz. Be very thoughtful about your answer. Was this A, the machines? Now, this is a digital image. Was it B, people-oriented? Was it C, paper-oriented? Or was it D, programs-oriented? Put your vote in, okay? Put your vote in on which one you think. Was that an effect of A, machines, B, people, C, paper, D, programs? Now, most all of you are getting that it's B. It's people. Now, this could be called the Ruby effect. You're right. Now, let me point something out to you that I need you to understand. When you take this kind of evidence and you take it to court and you present it in this format, right here, cast vote record, what is the outcome? Not a damn thing. Now, do you know why when you take that to court and the outcome is nothing? Do you know why that is? Because they can say it was an accident. I didn't mean to do it. It was a boo-boo. I ran them in one way. I thought I'd already run it. I ran them in again. Now, these votes counted. Now, many things, you're getting it right, Therese. You're right. Not enough to affect the material outcome of the election. But when you're dealing with humans, things work. It's a glitch. It's a boo-boo. It's an accident. Now, this is glaring, right? This is glaring. And you're seeing it with your eyes. This is why I'm giving you a little prep here. And you were right. That was a people-oriented issue. However, if, in fact, we had the physical ballots, the accident becomes a crime. Now, how does that happen? because what you have is, and you got to understand how all of this works, you have a paper ballot that somebody marked. This has nothing to do with the voter. It has to do with the people that run the elections. That paper ballot went in, okay, and it created a digital image. This one will have an adjudication piece in between it. We'll have a final image, and then it gets dropped into the elector file. When it got around to the other one, you'd never find it, meaning there'd be no paper there. But why is it in the system? Well, then you get to go deeper. Who ran that batch? Which they know. Who ran that batch? And then with this a simple forensic technique like that, you've only got one paper, but you got two pre-images, you got two adjudications, you got two after images, you got two EMS files, and you counted it twice. Every one of those become potential crimes. At minimus, it's maladministration. But see, you got one hardcore anchor. That one anchor, right, would give you the legal right to look at everything. But if you don't look at everything and you can't show the physical piece of paper, you can't earn the right to look at everything. So now do you understand why they hid the paper? Because it gives you the measuring stick to show it from beginning to end, and then you look for the recurring occurrences, and that's what takes it from maladministration to malfeasance, and that's what makes things widespread, which is why they focus on, but it's not widespread. So it's just a boo-boo, right? Let me show you a different version of it. Take a look at this one. Now, at the top of the ballot, you are looking at basically the batch run number. This was batch 742. It looks like it was tabulator 40, and it looks like it was batch 11. Okay. So it was precinct, sorry. It should be if it's in the proper format, precinct 742, tabulator 40, the 11th ballot in sequence. Do you see it at the top? Now, I want you to pick something looking at this ballot, although you're looking at a digital copy. Once again, you're looking at a digital copy. I want you to focus in on something on that ballot other than the number at the top that you can recognize and remember the shape. So you either have the vote for Biden on the left, or you have the vote for Bryant on the right. But you see how it's kind of uniquely marked? Now, this is the same person that voted it. I can tell you as an expert on this, right? Is they have a swirl and a scribble. They zoop, zoop, zoop in a circle, and then they up and down. Get it? That's how they start. It's called a reverse stroke. Now, pick one, put your eyes on it. Pick one. Let's jump forward. Same precinct. 2 batches later. Yeah. But the second ballot in sequence. You probably notice it's the exact same mark. Second ballot in sequence, 2 batches later. Now, this is exactly the same ballot. You can see it. Here's number 1. Here's number 2. Now, the timing difference shows it wasn't an immediate flip. Why? Because it's 2 batches later. But they're the same. Okay. One more look. Ballot A, batch 40, ballot 11 in sequence. 42, batch 2 in sequence. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a few questions. You ready? Time to vote. You get to vote A, B, C, or D. A, was this the machine? B, was this people? C, was this paper? D, was this programs? What was it? Put it in chat. You're right. It's B, it's paper. Now, how do we know this? Because that ballot image is created when the ballot is tabulated. And somehow that ballot, that physical ballot, got tabulated twice, but at different times and in a different sequence. Now, let's get your forensics on. Number one, this is all digital. What's the end result in court? Because all I had to show you was the digital image. What happens in court? Not a thing. Why? Because all of the rules regarding everything electronic are 100% voluntary. Now, you're right, it's paper. It is C, it's on paper. But you got to go to the cause. The cause is the paper was fed by a person, B, into the system. Now, since it was all electronic and all the voting rules are voluntary, what can the system say? It was a boo-boo. It was a mistake. Now, let me tell you where forensics picks up in this and why we need the paper. See, when you prove it's the paper, you can show criminal intent. Now, let's just kind of play out a theory here. Let's say that ballot, we know it ran in twice. That means Biden got 2 votes where he should have gotten 1. You got to remember, they can vote 40 times or 50 times on a ballot, depending what's there. How does it impact the overall vote if they're different than the opposing side? It could be 40 different votes difference for one ballot. It can make a 40 vote difference. Get it? Depending on how many races there are. Now let's do forensics on this. Why do you need the paper? Well, when you get the paper, how does the paper get into the scanner? If everything in the machine is voluntary, they can say it's a boo-boo. It was a mistake. It was an accident. But let me ask you a simple question in investigation. How does the paper get into the scanner or tabulator? A person. So for that paper to appear twice at rudimentary investigation level, what occurred? Some person put that same piece of paper in. Get it? Now, what's interesting is now you have an identifiable person. Okay? We're going to keep on playing out this forensics because you got it right. This is a people issue. Now, in that numbers up there, and this is going to become important in a few moments, and those numbers up there, those numbers give you what's called time and telemetry. It tells you when it was done, and it tells you what time it was done, what machine it was done on, and what sequence it was in. Now, why is that important? And you'll know more in a minute as I go on. Please hang with me. Why is that important? Well, let's say this first ballot, let's say it was run on tabulator 1. And then it just, instantly following on the same tabulator 1, here it comes in again. Well, then in your investigation, we're doing numbers here. If it was 100 ballots and ballot number 1 showed up twice, in an investigation, boom, here comes the first one in the machine, this batch. But then you see it a second time immediately following, but it's the last ballot in sequence versus the first ballot in sequence. Now, what you have forensically is you can pretty much attribute that to human error. Why? Well, it was number 1 in this sequence, and I'm just picking that number out of my hoo-hoo because it's so small. I got to start with 1. Number 1 went in. Now, when the ballots go in, it kind of reverses the order because they stack up, right? And when you look at that, right, and it happens, and then there's an accident, you can ostensibly say in these machines, okay, it ran through and somehow somebody just immediately, they were supposed to set it over here, but yet they set it here. They thought it was a new batch and they ran it through. Now you have a physical trail that could lead you to believe it was truly an accident. I can see how it could happen. They were supposed to take it out and put it over here, but yet they took it and put it here. They got distracted, scratched their butt. Okay, right? Smoked too much hooch at lunch or whatever. You can get it, right? Okay. Now let's play a different thing that actually occurs in these cases. Do you remember I told you every single fact matters? Every single fact matters. I know you're saying, oh, please, they ran it again. I know that. But look, we got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Okay? Let's say that the first ballot went in tabulator number 1. But then when you find it again in the system, it's tabulator number 6 of 10. Now what do you have? This is forensics. When it went in the first time, it was tabulator number 1. And by the way, if they say it's a paper jam, it has to be written down. There should be supporting paper. But you see in that first example, it can literally be said it was a boo-boo. You could deduce that. But let's say that first batch was run in tabulator 1. But when it came up again in the system, the same exact ballot, somehow it appeared on, ballot scanner number 6 of 10. Well, now what you have is another measurement in forensics. Well, that machine sat on the left side of the room, and this machine is 50 feet away over on this side of the room. How did the paper get there? Now, let me ask you that question. Even dealing with the digital copy, if it ran on tabulator number 1, and we see it again on tabulator number 6, what would have done that? Well, another person would have done it. It could be the same person. It can be 2 people doing it. Hold on one second. Just muted, idiots, so we don't distract it. This is too important to do. So, okay. So if it migrated You understand you have another step in the cog, right? You have another step in the cog if it migrated. That shows what? Intent. See, remember, when you anything digital, you can say it's a boo-boo. But when you deal in the physical, it proves intent. Why? Because you intentionally marked the ballot. You intentionally scanned it in. You intentionally carried it to a tabulator or whatever the case may be, depending upon how the district does it. Do you understand? There you go. Now, let's go to the next level of forensics. If, in fact, it showed up in this ballot batch and it was number 1 of 100, which means if it was just an accident, it will be number 100 if it just got picked up and went to another machine. They just ran it in reverse. What if that number's out of sequence? Down there the second time. And it appeared as number 11, as opposed to if it was just an accidental rerun in reverse order, it'd be number 100. That shows what? Again, intent. They shuffled them, and they have to explain all this stuff. This is why you go for the paper. Do you understand? I've taken you through forensics, so let me show you a few others. You ready? 1. Look at this ballot. Not yet voted. What's wrong with this ballot? Put it in chat. Tell me what is wrong with this ballot. And it's crooked by whoever took the shot. You're right. There's a dot. You see that little dot for Kamala? There's a dot. Now, technically, that wouldn't be a stray mark because that has to be done by a human hand. This is done by the machine, but which machine is it done on? It's done on the printer. So in this one, let's look at it. In this one, okay, the ballot printer, whether it be at the high level or the lower level. Now, I can tell you right now, looking at the grayscale in this, see where it says President, Vice President of the United States? The grayscale is kind of off. So this is probably a ballot on demand, the lower level printer. But there's a dot, and the dot was done by the printer. Now, if this was a nefarious intentional hack, which is it? A, is this the machine? B, is this the people? C, is it the paper? D, is it the program? A, is it the machine? B, is it the people? C, is it the paper? D, is it the program? Which way would you vote? Now, it's interesting. Some people are saying A, you'd be right. Some people are saying B, you'd be right. Some people are saying D, you'd actually be right. So how would you track this down? Well, number one, you've got it. Now, let's do forensics. Why? Because we're looking at the paper. Now, what does forensics do? Well, number one, if you had 100 precincts, and this was only in one precinct, what could you determine? Well, if it was in one precinct out of 100, it was one precinct, then you would ask yourself what? How would you track it down in forensics? Which ballot on demand printing machines did that precinct use? Did they have one? Did they have two? Did they have three? Okay. Now, if you took a blank piece of paper and you ran it through that printer and the dot appeared, what would that lead you to believe? Let me ask it again. If you ran if they only had one machine and you ran the paper through and a random dot appeared, what could you conclude from that in an investigation? That there was an issue with the printer. Bad printer, you're right. Now, let me change it. If you run paper through the machine and no dot appears, what can you assume? It wasn't the printer. So where do you go next? Well, since all of our ballot images to the precincts are delivered electronically, what do you go back to? You go back to the original file that enables the ballot format for that precinct to be there. Now, all of that gets sent through the mail. Okay, well, what if you go back to the ballot original that was sent there and there's no dot? And when you printed from a machine, you saw the dot. Well, that would be conclusive evidence it did not exist in the original file. It truly, truly was just a machine acting wonky. Now, let's say that the dot was in the original file. Where do you go next? Well, you look up line. Okay, where did the file for the precinct come from? Now you head up line. And you got some county worker. You look at the image they received for distribution. Was the dot there or not? Let's say the dot wasn't there. But somehow for this worker, the dot got there. You see how you do this tracking down? What if you have, right? What if you have no dot there, and you look at the precinct and it has a dot in the master, and then everyone that precinct rang had that dot there? It basically shows somebody put that dot in and it was ran on every one of them. What if at the precinct level you find out somebody put a dot there, possibly? What if you find that dot is not on all of the ballots, but it's on 50% of the ballots? What would that lead you to believe? That somehow it's turning on and it's turning off. But see, you got to look at the ballot. Now, let's say you actually look at every ballot and 50% of the ballots have dots, but it's number 1, number 3, number 5, number 7. Get it? What do you have? You have a program running. Yes, you have a program running. So that would prove there's some sort of program here. Now, let's say this precinct, half of the ballots had it, half of the ballots didn't, and they ran 1,000 ballots. Let's say on 1,000 ballots, 100 people, when you get the ballots, 100 people did not vote for anybody as president. But when you look at the adjudication files, because sometimes people hate the president, so I'm just not going to vote for those. I don't like either one, so I'm not going to vote. But let's say on those 100, which are clearly not marked by a human hand, which would technically just be an undervote, why would you need to know if somebody didn't vote? You ever thought about that? Well, let me tell you why they want to know if somebody didn't vote. Let's say there was 100 ballots where somebody didn't vote for president. Did you know that adjudicates it? That you didn't vote for a president. Now, did that tell you when you were scanning it in? Did the person say, wait a minute, you didn't vote for a president? Not at all. But let's say in the undervote adjudication, and you look at the physical ballot, and there's not any marked by human hands, and it throws it as an undervote. Look at this. What is this? What if in adjudication, that little dot was read as a mark and gave 100 votes to Kamala? The machines have that ability. Now, in that case, depending on what they use, it's a person looking at adjudication. Oh, there's a little mark there. They must have put their pin there. They just didn't finish it. Vote for Kamala. You understand the combination there? That was a combination that somebody put the dot there. It's not anywhere from the other precincts. It's only this particular precinct. Somehow they got it, modified the PDF file, loaded into the system, and has a dot. But when it went to adjudication, who's looking at adjudication? Well, that little bitty dot was enough, and it can be done, was enough to say it was a vote for Kamala, which means every ballot in the system that was an undervote, meaning I don't want to vote for any of the presidents. I think they're all horrible. One's too orange and one cackles too much. But somebody allowed it. They would read that dot as voter intent. Is that the machine? Well, see, you're seeing it was achieved by paper, but it required people because it wasn't omnipresent everywhere, which means somebody intentionally put that dot there. And if it did, like I said, 50% of them, it's alternating, it's a program. But did the machine actually do it? Technically, there's a machine involved, but did the machine do it? You see how all of this works? This is the subtleties that if you don't understand how it works, and I'm going to give you one before I start showing you some videos. If you don't understand how it works, you call it out wrong. And the easiest way to call it out wrong, it's the machines. Okay, here you go. This is, some people call them a batch header, right? A batch header. And so all of the ballots run in batches. The batches are usually, they can be anywhere from 200 or a little less or up, whatever it is. This would be a batch header when you're looking at what's in here. There's a little sheet added. And this thing would say, okay, here's the stack. And there's 481 votes for Trump. And there's 187 votes for Biden. There's 4 for Jorgensen. And 0 for overvote. And let's say you find this. And as you can see up there, okay, it's precinct 411C. And it's election day. but they did a recount. Now, recounts can mean they just counted the number of papers again. But remember, even in a recount, they don't have to show the trail they got there with. Somebody's just reading the batch header. Well, let's say they did a recount, and here's the replacement batch header. Requires some math. Supposedly, originally, Donald Trump had 481 votes. Biden had 187. Jorgensen had 4. But when you look at the county recounts, it was adjusted to 284 to Donald Trump, 187 to Biden, which was the same, right? Yep. 4 to Jorgensen and 0 for overvote. So where did the votes go? Same batch, same precinct, same recount. One is the original and one is the recount. Where'd the votes go? So let me ask you a question. Which one do you believe? One's done at the level that it was supposedly going on, and one was afterwards. Well, you can see they reduced Donald Trump. We're just going to make it easy. They dropped 200 votes. It's 199, but they dropped 200 votes. It's about, 199. It's about exactly a batch load. Well, where'd they go? Some people say it went to the chicken fire for nesting, but let's don't use that. How would you track this down? Now, see, you think when they do a recount that it actually means it's real. Whose word do you take? Do you take this word? Or do you take this word? Because at the end of the day, when they tell you we're doing a recount, all they're doing is retabulating what was written on the box. One person wrote this at the precinct level. One person wrote this at the recount level. Now, here's the interesting thing. How would you verify it? See, this one, the county's saying, because the county certifies it, this is what we certified happened. But on the recount by the state, this is what they certified happened. What you're probably learning is comparing receipts isn't an audit. So if we got a missing 199 ballots from one end to the other, where'd they go? So what do you need? You want to get to the bottom of this. What do you need? The paper. Because you see everything in this. The little receipt that they give off the machines, the batch headers, they never talk about. They never talk about the batch headers. Where do you get the absolute truth? That's 197 ballot difference, which is about the size of a batch. Where do you get the absolute truth? The paper ballot. Now, if you did a paper, not PCAPs, not any of that bullshit, right? And you did a paper recount and it matched the first one, what could you conclude? Well, somebody on the recount end deducted 197 votes from Trump. You know, some people think it's adding votes. You know, they can do the same thing by subtracting votes. So what if this was correct? What if the really absolute thing was Donald Trump got 481 votes? But when the county, whatever, did the recount of the commissioners, it somehow lopped off 197. Then you can see somebody at the county level took away those votes. Or what if it's in reverse? You really only have that many physical ballots, right? It would mean somebody at this level padded Donald Trump votes. Now, one of the good things about all of this, if it's done correctly, is, hang on, let me find it. You actually end up with something like this. Now, I'm showing you a little bit different variances here, and I think I'm going to have to, let me see where it is on my screen. Oh, wait, damn it. What did I do? There it is. Okay. So these are tabulation pieces, okay, batch headers. I'm going to pump this up. Now, this is a little different version of it, but I want to show you something. This is supposedly a batch. 100% of the votes for Biden. 100% of the votes for Biden. 200 votes, all of them for Biden. 100 votes, all of them for Biden. 100 votes, all of them for Biden. Now, you're seeing two things here, right? You see the 100 in the slot, and you're seeing 100 circled in the confirmation. You're seeing 100 in the slot, 100 circled in the confirmation. That's a supervisor. Okay? Now, number one, it's statistically impossible. I'm going to give you some more on this, okay? Now, let's put your forensics on. Look at the screen. This is absentee scanner batch number 4, or absentee scanner number 4, batch 37. See it at the top? Absentee scanner 2, batch 22. Absentee scanner 2, batch 19. Absentee scanner 2. Absentee scanner 2. Get it? Absentee scanner 4. Absentee scanner 4. So what you can deduce by this is you got two people running this operation. One's using scanning 2, one's using scanning 4. You could deduce that. Secondly, there should be two people involved, because one person wrote it was 100 and a supervisor confirmed, they double checked that it was 100. But what's the problem when the county turned all of this over? I'm going to pump it up. Well, what happened in all of this is the county refused to turn over the signatures of who these people were. And if you look at the bottom, it says there were 3 sets of initials involved in the checkout station. They failed to put it here, so you don't know how many people are involved. There were 3 there. There were 3 there. They failed to put it there. They failed to put it there. They failed to put it there. See, so that tells you how many times this was done unsupervised. This is forensics. This is why everything matters. The fact that the trend was to have 3, but there's none, technically this could be, if you look at my screen, wait a minute, we can't even count this because nobody verified it. Yeah, you have there, and see, there's no confirmation on this one with the red circle. There's no confirmation there. There's no confirmation there. This is forensics. This is the level of work we do. You got a second person involved there. You got a second person involved there. None there. Got a second person involved there. This is forensics. Now, what if we had all the signatures? We get to see who these people are. Do you understand yet how this game is played? Now, I'm going to give you a test here. See, everything here has people connected to it. It's all absentee ballots, possibly unsupervised. They were running two different machines, okay? They're doing it consecutively. Batch number 19, batch number 20, batch number 22, batch number 35. Oh, excuse me, here it is. 21, see it? Batch. Batch 19, batch 20, batch 21, batch 22, and then it picked back up again, batch 35, batch 36, batch 37. Now, do you even see how much more information we learned? We learned they'll do it 3 batches at a time, boom, 3 batches at a time, boom, 3 batches at a time. This is forensics. Is this the machines? Vote A in chat. Is this people? Your vote will be B. If it was paper that did this, your vote will be C. If it was D and it did this, it would be the programs. Now, which one is this? Of course it's B. But this is forensics just with that sheet of paper. Henry says it was a big black bitch. No, it's just a B, Henry, but thank you. BBB. That's slang on the internet. Look, it's people. It's people. Now, where do you go from here? Well, if in fact, the only way you can see what happened is what do you have to do? You got to get back. Because statistically, this is improbable. Every single vote, 100%. They never turned over the people because we could find out who were doing it. They protected their people doing this. So right now, all you can say is statistically, it's impossible. Well, you can't do anything based on statistically. So where do you go to find out the actuality? The paper. It's the only thing that can prove it. Let me give you a little background on this one. Here you go.
Yeah, so what we're looking at, Heather and Steve, are tally sheets that were the auditors for the Georgia audit that was conducted on November 14th and 15th in Fulton County.
Oh, what? You mean this wasn't at the precinct level? Is that why they were on yellow paper? This was when the state came in and did a recount? Random recount?
Yeah, so what we're looking at, Heather and Steve, are tally sheets that were the auditors for the Georgia audit that was conducted on November 14th and 15th in Fulton County. They filled these out as they counted the ballot.
This is Garland Favorito, the talking head in Georgia for all of this. Garvin Favorito, like Dorito of your favorite Favorito.
Yeah, so what we're looking at, Heather and Steve, are tally sheets that were the auditors for the Georgia audit that was conducted on November 14th and 15th in Fulton County. They filled these out as they counted the ballots. And typically you would see 37 to 43, 60 to 1 to 48, something like that. But here we have tally sheets that are 100 to nothing for ballots. So somebody filled this out. But it's not just one of these. We have 7 of these, And we're going to kind of scroll through and show you these live. There's another one, 100-0. The actual counts of these are like 59-42 in terms of ballot images. Here's one that's 150-0.
Yeah, so basically the people that were doing the audit would count the batches and then write in fraudulent numbers because they have the corresponding images for these batches and they do not match these sheets. So whoever was doing them commit fraud. And what I had asked him in the press conference is, are these sheets signed by the person that doing them? And apparently they are, Steve. And not only that, the Secretary of State has the information. These sheets that they got, it's redacted. So they can't determine who was doing this, but we know that whoever did commit fraud. Now I want to switch over to the images of the ballots, right? These ballot images that they obtained through their lawsuit that are the official images from the Dominion machines, 2 different ballots right here, right? This is the ballot number, the ballot number here, different from here, but as you can see, it's the exact same markings, Steve, on each one. And Garland, tell me, how many of these did you guys find?
Well, there are a total of duplicate reporting of over 4,000. We're still looking at to find out how many of these are duplicate scanned.
This spreadsheet behind here has about 40,000 line items, right? That compares the numbers from the original election to the recount. The error rate on that, they said, was 59.5%.
Okay. Now, this is physical evidence. However, the only thing you can prosecute on is the physical ballot. So we're fighting in Georgia for the physical ballot, about 150,000, and they're being set aside. This is where David Cross and others thought this was a social media game. Of course, we'll see if the GOP rewards him with the new chairmanship there of the GOP. But this is where people thought this was news, and here you go, and how you fight it. No, all of this was even more preponderance of evidence to verify we got to get to the paper. But what they did was they released it in social media, and it tanked the audit. And now it's been 4 years, 8 months later, we still don't have it. And I'm pretty sure that those ballots that were supposed to be kept, although we keep on hearing they're done. This is the GOP, folks. But this is also the problem with social media, that people think, news, there'll be a breaking story. You know what? The only thing that should have broke was the cabal in the system. Not, do you have a cool story? Now, I became the villain because I called all these people out and said, pull that freaking interview down. You're going to cost us. And it did. I told them exactly when it happened. Other podcasters that had the interview saying, I'm not taking it down. You're just trying to get credit. You dumb idiot. This isn't about who gets credit. You just want to claim you discovered it yourself. No, you idiot. This is lawfare. We're fighting a war. This is evidence. And when they see what we know, they're not going to give us the paper. What happened? They didn't give us the paper. Simple question. In that whole Michigan, was that the machines? Was it people? Was it paper? Or was it programs? The only forensics can tell you all of this. And when you get into the forensics and you get the paper, it's only then can you tell, did a program manage this? Because everything else is voluntary, looks like a trend, and it cannot be codified if you keep on focusing on the machines, which is what they taught everybody in the system to do. Focus on the machines. Focus on the machines. Don't forget, right when I leave this program, we're going to go ahead and talk about part 2, Lindell versus Coomer. It's the live trial that's going on. I'm going to show you a few more things before I show you some other videos. What's this? Hang on. Boom. Okay. By the way, when you these were what the votes were, right? They basically changed everything. They falsified to 100% for Biden. That took a person to do it. It took multiple people to do it. But even the state wouldn't release the people's names. Now, why would the state black out their names? Because then you will find out if it was widespread, who was involved, and were they told to do it. I've always told you there are hundreds of ways it's rigged. What do they tell you? It's the machines. They changed the vote. Here's another one we'll look at. Can you kind of see this one at all? Let me see if I've got it. Anyway, you can see, right? Looking at the unique marks, the little X right in the middle. Some are X, some are circle and X combos, but it's marked identically. Same votes, same place, appearing batches and batches later. Now, this is an electronic one. Can't prosecute on the electronic. Now I'm going to get into some heavy stuff. All this takes is standards, folks. That's all this takes. Standards. Okay.
I believe that SEB 2023-025, which deals with the general election count and an official recount of the general election contest, is a case that pertains to the role and responsibility of the Secretary of State. The complaint is complex and large in scope. It involves alleged inaccuracies, inconsistencies, and irregularities in counts for a presidential contest in one county that represents 10% of the votes in the state. The findings in a prior complaint, SEB 2021-181, that was concluded with a consent order, found 4,081 votes that were erroneously given to one candidate and a careful review of a third of the ballots by the governor's team and Mr. Rossi and Mr. Moncla. If one were to calculate the same error rate and 100% review of that same county, there would be over 12,000 votes given to a candidate in error. Mr. Rossi and Mr. Moncla's complaint, 2023-025, questions the accuracy of the recount and the original count of the presidential contest of 2020. They question the veracity of scanner vote totals because of lack of documentation. Mr. Rossi and Mr. Moncla allege that the recount resulted in almost 18,000 votes short and over 3,000 duplicate vote counts. According to the complaint, 10 scanners have no election documents for 20,713 votes. Perhaps the county or other election officials can produce the proper documents or evidence.
Okay. Thousands of votes. Here's the question. From that testimony, was it the machines? A. Was it B, people? Was it C, paper? Or was it D, programs? Based on what she said, was it A, machines, B, people, C, paper, D, programs? And yes, there was only about a 10,000 and change difference, 11,000 difference in the vote in Georgia. Now, which one would it be? Well, when it's said like that, now I've already tainted you because I've shown you how the people do it. But when it's just read like that, it's easy for people to say, oh, it's the machine. See, they're swapping votes. They're swapping votes. That's proof. Is it? Is it? Is it the machines? It's the machines. Well, see, here's the deal. When it's dealt with at that level, and they put their people in screaming, it's the machines. And if it does actually get to court, they will say it was just an accident. It was a boo-boo. We'll do better. But there's no conviction because it's voluntary voting system guidelines. Now, do you see why it's always pushed to the machines? Now, what was missing in that? What was missing in that? The paper. Now, as you've been through this drill with me, if we had the paper, I can compare the paper to the digital, to the batch card, to the chain of custody, and I could eventually tell you, with nothing redacted, I'll tell you everybody who was involved, when they did it, what time, what they were, and how often they did it. That's forensics. But you can only get there with the paper. You can only get there with the paper. Now, this is where people are saying, but we got to do a hand count. We got to do a hand count. If we hand count it, paper ballots, hand count it, we'll stop all of this. Now, I know that sounds good. I know that sounds good. Because I'm showing you these things. Sounds freaking great. If we just get paper and hand count them, none of this will happen. In a way, you're right. But I want to ask you a question, because I'm going to drop two bigger pieces on you. Before I get to the one big piece, let's just go this. One, out of the 2,506 felons that voted in the election, which is their ballot and who did they vote for? Put it in chat. Out of the 2,506 felons that voted, which was their ballot and who did they vote for? Out of the 66,248 that were under 18 and registered to vote, 66,248 under 18 who were registered to vote, which of them voted, and were their ballots removed? Well, you could say that 66,000, let's say all of them voted. Do you remove 66,248 ballots from the system? Well, no, because you can't really tell which ballot it was. That's mail-in voting. 2,423 people that voted weren't registered at all. 1,043 used a post office box. That's not allowed. 4,926 votes voted past the registration date. 10,315 died before the election. 395 of them voted in 2 states. 15,700 of them moved out of state before the election. And 40,279 changed their county and didn't even re-register to vote. Now, let me give you an example. One-day voter registration, right? You can't register on the day to vote, has to be eliminated. Drop boxes has to be eliminated. Mail-in ballot outside of absolute you're on your deathbed in the hospital excuse has to be eliminated. The paper has to be standardized and you have to show ID. But will it fix all of this? No, it won't fix all of this. But you know what will fix all of this? Embrace the fact we don't have a problem with voter fraud. 10,315 people, let's say, if they were dead and voted, They didn't decide to do that. This is 100% bloated voter rolls of bullshit done wrong, that somebody knows where the fat is, and they're allowing a ballot to come in. See, there's really only one fix. Truly. But see, the system doesn't want it fixed. Why doesn't the system want it fixed? They don't want it fixed because the fat benefits them. Why? 69 million people voted for Obama in 08, 65 in his second term. Hillary against Trump, 65 million for her. Then we got the Biden nephew, 81 million, and Kamala supposedly had 68 million votes. However, since our election, our recent election we had in the months following, a really interesting thing happened. What happened? Well, a really interesting thing happened as they kept on inching up Kamala. They're closing that hole. They're closing that hole. And actually, I can design an unhackable voting system that will not let any of these happen and will audit at the same time. But the system does not want that. Now, you can see they've moved Kamala up to 74,749,891. This is what's going to hit us in the midterms. By the way, don't forget, right after this, I'm doing part 2 of the Lindell versus Coomer because a lot's on the line for us. But let me point something else out. It has a lot to do with Mike Lindell. I'm showing you that you can see the numbers. We know where they use this stuff. Here it is, plain as day. But part of Lindell's work was this.
So you have a centralized statewide voter roll that's on networked machines, servers. It has a public-facing internet interface. That's it. That's all I need to know that it's blown. That's a centralized statewide voter roll that was mandated by Help America Vote Act. They have these all over the country. And it's not just that you have a public-facing internet interface to it, but multiple organizations have what's called an API, or an application programming interface. In other words, a machine-to-machine interface into that voter roll. And I'm telling you this because when people say, well, we have to clean up the voter rolls, it's true that they're not following the law. It's true that they're not in good faith maintaining them in accordance with Title 52 that requires that the voter rolls be both secure and accurate. That's a requirement imposed on the secretaries of state who've received the Help America Voting Act and CARES Act funding to maintain those voting systems. What nobody's going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you, is you cannot clean those rolls. You're sweeping a dirt floor.
Well, who paid for that? That was at Turning Point. That person went on the road. Who paid for that? Put it in chat. Who paid to have that person crisscross the country? I even heard this firsthand when I'm sitting with President Trump. Here's what we got to do. Somebody chimes up from behind, says, well, we're told not to do it because they'll just put them back in. That's how far this went in. Who paid? Who paid for that? Well, you're right. Mike Lindell paid to put those people on the road. But was it really Mike? No. It was you. You're paying Mike Lindell legal fees right now, which may be up to $400,000 in a separate GoFundMe or send money or whatever. And he's having his trial right now, but will present no evidence of fact based on all he said the election was stolen, but he's not going to present any of it. You paid $400,000 in donations, still coming in, thinking the proof's going to come out. All the promotion, proof's going to come out. It's about the machines. You're going to see it. It's going to. He's not going to bring any of that. You paid for it. Now, why do I say this? Because this is how all of it works. I'm only going to cover one more. But I want you to suspend for a moment that we were going to do multiple full forensic audits across the United States. teams funded by Lindell went around and said, full forensic audits are grift. Nothing. All those people got put on the road. One person went to all 50 states, 700 appearances. Who paid for that? Okay. Now I'm going to show you one other. This is what would have happened if we would have been able to do our true audits in multiple states. Listen.
Yes. Do you know why 380,761 ballot images from Election Day machine count are not available?
Okay. 380,000. We're going to call it 400,000 just for shits and giggles, okay? 400,000 ballots in Georgia, 100% specifically on election day. When you look for the digital images of those ballots, the pre-image, they do not exist. Put that in your head. 400,000 ballots. All election day ballots. Okay? Do not have the codifying. It went in the scanner, it creates a digital image, and it goes through the process. You cannot verify that they ever hit a scanner. You cannot verify that they ever hit a scanner.
Yes. Do you know why 380,761 ballot images from Election Day machine count are not available?
We subpoenaed Fulton County for all of their ballot images. We received approximately 518,000 ballot images.
From Election Day?
Those were for the recount.
Those are from the recount, but we have no ballot images for 380,761 ballots from Election Day, correct?
What was subpoenaed was the ballot images for the recount because that's what this case was about, not the Election Day.
Does Fulton County know why there are not 380,000?
Now, as you listen to them, you saw the recount was total hooey-pooey. But the county people say, well, we only requested the images from the recount. You never answered the question, why are approximately, and I'm rounding up, 400,000 ballot images from Election Day missing? Now, I'm going to give you a test. We're going to take a pre-test. We're going to take a post-test. Think of it as a two-finger test. Okay. 400,000 ballot images missing from the machines, meaning they're not there. Let me take you through. When the paper hits the machine, you got paper. The paper hits the machine, you get a digital image. It has an adjudication file if anything happened to it. It has the post-adjudication file to show here's the ballot after. It has the electronic version of dropping into the EMS, and then it has other counts. That's the cast vote records, which nobody knew. And I'm trying to educate all these people. They just get the last cast vote record. In this case, the last cast vote record exists. You just can't verify it came first, so you don't really know what you're looking at. So first question, okay, 400,000 ballot images missing. Is that A, the machines? Is that B, the people? Is that C, the paper? Or is that D, the programs? Put it in chat. There are 400,000, roughly, ballot images missing from the system? Is that A, the machines? Is that B, people? Is that C, paper? Is that D, programs? The ballot images are missing. The ballot images are missing. The ballot images are missing. None of these people have looked at physical ballots. The ballot images are missing. Well, one, somebody had to tell them not to store, but actually it could be a program that telling them to do it. But you got to understand, there's 300,000 or 400,000 ballot images missing. Now I'm going to give you a different way to look at this. Now, this is Georgia we've used the whole time. It's very easy to say, it's the machines did it, the machines deleted them all. That's very easy to say in this case, right? Very easy to say in this case. Do you agree? Shit, yeah. They just wiped them out. So you could, in this case, say it's the machines. But was it the machine? Because it gets scanned. Did it say, don't save an image for these? Was it the machines and the ballot never existed and they made it up and inserted it? Well, I'm going to take you through that drill. Get your dick on, get your detective on, get ready. Oops, wrong button. Happens every now and then. This is the last little test of the who day. Okay, you ready? We're going to start here, folks. Oops. This is Arizona. Now, what I showed you was Georgia. And they're saying basically 400,000 ballot images are missing from the machines. Now, let me show you something here. I'm going to take you back through this. Okay, so bear with me. Our team is the only team in the world that has ever forensically audited an election. I'm the only person in American history who's actually looked at over 2 million individual ballots, 189 million ovals. Now, if you look at your screen, if you look at the screen, remember I kind of showed you this telemetry before at the top. This was tabulator 3002. See the top line at the left? This was batch 715, see 00715. And this was image number 000082. Okay? And this is what's called telemetry. 1500, 22, and 34. And there's the date. Okay? Now, I just kind of want you to understand this. Now, in Maricopa, we had of approximately 2 million ballots. We had 1.8 million physical pieces of evidence that show how the machines should run. You understand what I'm saying? You are looking at 1.8 million actual, verified, documented pieces of physical evidence that prove when a ballot is run into the scanning tabulating system, we get not only a confirmation, we get to understand the who, what, when, and where. Get it? Okay. Now I'm going to show you something else. What interestingly happened in Arizona for 165,000 ballots, and I'm going to show you on my screen, is this. Okay. Now, these are 1.8 million ballots coming into the system that we know absolutely by that little mark on top. Look at the little mark on top, just below the red banner. We know what tabulator did it, what batch it was, what image it was in secret, and the telemetry of the date and everything else. We know it, okay? However, for some reason on 165,000 ballots in Maricopa, roughly, you notice none of that information's there. Now, the reason I did this way is, you see the red banner I put here? That's the extra space on the paper. I did that so you could see how much space is left on this header. This is basically called the text file, the EMS file. See the red? However, when you look at 165,000 some odd ballots, you notice the header's gone, right? The header's gone. It just disappeared. 100% disappeared on 165,000 ballots. You with me so far? The other thing you will notice is the type is bigger. See the size of this type on this page? See the type on this page? You see how the type's bigger? Well, what they did is they zoomed up the image synthetically so it would cut off the batch header, but show the information they wanted to show. By the way, SG, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for supporting my program and work. Thank you very much. Okay, now why is this important? Why is this particular piece of evidence important in Arizona? Now, what this shows is somebody did some sort of programming or whatever, but what they did is they edited the file for 165,000 ballots to cut off the headers. So you couldn't really see when they were run in, what batch they were from, which batch they were in sequence, or where did it happen. Okay? Now, this is information in Arizona. Got it? This is information in Arizona. This is what we know as a result of actually doing a full forensic audit in Arizona. Now, I'm going to take you a little bit further because I've shown you forensics is chasing down everything. Okay? First, I want to tell you a few things. When I discovered this anomaly, why was this missing? Why did they cut out the space? Why did they zoom up the information? That's to cut off the head. But why were, 1.8 million ballots not touched that way? And why were 165,000 roughly, right, modified? Well, let me tell you a few things about those ballots. If anything I've taught you that all of the facts matter. In this case, in Arizona, 100% of those ballots that somebody modified, 100% of those ballots were exclusively election day ballots. Now let that sink in for a minute. You start looking for common denominators. I showed you how much information you can find from this stuff. Of those that they're modified, they were 100% election day ballots only. Now I want you to listen.
Yes. Do you know why 380,761 ballot images from Election Day machine count are not available?
We subpoenaed Fulton County for all.
Okay, listen to what she says. Listen to the words of what she asked.
Yes. Do you know why 380,761 ballot images from Election Day machine count are not available?
So here's what she said. You caught it's Election Day. Did you catch that? It's exclusively Election Day. But what she's asking is, hey, all of these Election Day ballots, the image of where the ballot went into the machine is missing. All of the Election Day ballots, the image of the ballots going into the machine are missing. In Arizona, 1.8 million, we can confirm, hit the machines. This 100+ thousand has no way to prove they were in the machines. But you know what is also interesting? 100% of these are not only Election Day, 100% of the image that is created when it goes in the machine are missing. 100%. Identical to Georgia. Now, let me say that again. 100% of these ballots are Election Day that got modified. All Election Day, just like Georgia. 100% of the pre-images, when it first hits the machines, are missing. So they can't prove that it actually ran into the proper system. They can't prove it even on their own because that image is missing. So neither can Georgia, same as Georgia. Now, Georgia didn't get an audit. The GOP made sure of that. But in Arizona, where they watched my team carefully of what we can find, we got it. And we got Election Day ballots. We got the physical ballot. So there is a physical ballot. There is no image of it going in the machine, but there is an after image and there is a drop to the file. And so that's why the election said, well, Biden picked up a few more votes. But did he? One thing you need to know is in Arizona, these images that you're seeing here, we didn't get till months and months and months later. We had to fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. And the subpoenas was going to send them to prison. And then they say, well, oh, wait a minute, we archived them. But that was months later. And what they gave us back were these images after the fact. Months later, they gave us these images and said, well, sorry, we misplaced them. Here you go. Georgia has the same problem, but here's what you need to know. Okay? Remember, I've showed you this before. Again, nobody ever audited this way before. And I showed you they never had the numbers in Arizona at all. Ever. It was picked right out of their hoo-hoo. And I showed you this data. And they told you I was grifting. And they told you we didn't do an audit. And they told you I didn't do a report. Right? I'm the only person in the history of the world that's ever created forensics to look at this. Now, what we find in this is we find this really odd outlier. And get it up here, it'll be blurry, but we find this really odd outlier aside from we see all these massive numbers of ballots being run in a month after the election. See them right there? Now, why were they running in ballots a month after the election? Why? Well, you got to ask yourself, what were they doing during all that time, right? And why were they running in ballots after the election, which is what I'm asking, which nobody paid attention to. And again, guys, I appreciate you supporting our work. Thank you. Thank you. Super Beth, thank you so very much. See, they will let things go to court, and you're right. They are allowing only certain things to go to court because you can never prove it. But when you see what we do, and you see the power of forensics, you get to show that very important thing, intent. And that's what's needed. But if they keep it to the machines, it's voluntary. K2, thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we have Georgia, we have this information that they would not let you see. I mean, Arizona. We're going to get one in Georgia. Now, why wouldn't they let you see it? Let me tell you why they wouldn't let you see it. Because they did the same exact thing in Arizona. I'm going to just zoom this up. You're looking at the dates. It is all 100% election ballots. 100%. But you can only find this by getting everything. Look at the dates. They were running these in fast and furiously, knowing we were going to get an audit, and we're screaming. Hiding them in every nook and cranny they could. And you can see how they did a lot of this and how many different people were involved. They're running these suckers in the system so they can have a piece of paper that matches because they know an audit's coming. Well, that's why there wasn't a pre-image. There was only a post-image. And by the way, that was not the machines. It was a digital insertion. But as soon as they found out that I'm going to look at the paper, they go, fuck, we're in trouble. We got to start making paper, which they did. Which is also why in forensics, I told you there were 1,675 boxes, which should have been sealed. Every one of them was supposed to be taped with security. Each batch is in there supposed to be secure. There's about 8 batches per box. When we got there, 1,675 boxes, all of them were in disarray. All the ballots were all over the place. Ballots were stacked on top out of sequence. What were those ballots? These ballots they were making. However, there were 52 boxes that were sealed the proper way by law. We're exactly right. 52 boxes. Oh, by the way, when I showed you earlier in the beginning, when the state did the audit in Georgia, the numbers were different and even the state numbers were wrong and they faked it. Well, in those 52 boxes in Maricopa County, Arizona, not only did those 52 boxes mathematically match the outcome of the election they chose, it had none of the forensic problems, from bleeds to overdupes to bad printing. None. Zero of the forensic things we saw in all of the other ballots. Susie, thank you. That was a risk limiting audit. I've always told you it means it limits the risk of getting known. Those boxes that Katie Hobbs and those guys decided to audit, 52, matched the election. All of the forensic tools we used to discover it, they were right, meaning they were technically correct. The rest of the boxes, all kinds of errors, all kinds of problems, all kinds of disarray, no chain of custody, all kinds of printing errors, all kinds of bleed through stuff, all over the place. How did they manage to pick exactly 52 boxes that would have none of those issues? Because it's all decided in advance, and you never find it. You never find it if you can't do a full forensic audit of everything and look at the paper. Guys, and yeah, you're asking the question, why wasn't the chain of custody challenged in court? I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. This was the same in Carrie Lake's case. And they brought in the chain of custody and had a so-called expert testify, well, they didn't sign it right. The court, well, the county guy said, well, that was just a boo-boo. It was an accident. But it wasn't signed right. But because they didn't do the forensics, they couldn't point to every ballot and show everything. They didn't bother it. I gave it to them. And the attorneys in Mike Lindell didn't let them use it in Carrie's case because they're the ones that funded it. Make of that what you will. But the only requirement the state of Arizona had in doing an additional audit in Arizona of the Carrie Lake stuff, which she didn't win, they had one requirement. You cannot work with Jovan and his team. Guys, thank you for all of your support for what we do. It's cost us millions, but we're fighting for our country. This is why we so desperately have to have your help on locals. Or all of this hard physical evidence gone. We're hearing testimony right now in front of a jury, Mike Lindell and all this stuff. It's the machines, it's the machines. Here, why? It was a call. He said he was going to do it. I'm worried about Mike is going to get his hat handed to him. I'm going to do part 2 right after this, so make sure you join me on locals. I just need a pee-pee break, but you'll get a etc. And those very auditors that did that second audit, which the state forbid me in, now those auditors are got positions within the GOP and the state, big whoop-de-doos, teaching people how to secure elections on YouTube where I'm not allowed. Think about that. You are probably the only people in the world that follow this that absolutely know the truth. But let me give you the kicker. Now, do you understand why they had to suppress the full forensic audit in Arizona? Because they deployed the same tactics in other states. If it matched, which it does, the tactic they did in Arizona, and we found it in Georgia, what do we have? Across state lines, common theme, common methodologies, federal racketeering. Federal racketeering, otherwise known as RICO. This is why I'm the most hated man in the room, and this is why you folks are hated. You're hated. You're hated because you know the truth. You're hated because you demand the truth. This is why the only things they let go to trial are.
These are the best in the world. These guys, and we're going to end up with about 120 the way it looks like. And you're right. We have over 200 politicians right now. They're representing over 30 states. And then we have all the media coming. And what we're going to do, Steve, is we're going to have like 4 different sections set up. One of them is the first thing we're going to do is pass out the states to the cyber forensic expert. What I mean by that is the raw data, the packet captures and the data from that whole state. So we give it to, let's say, a group of 10 of these experts. Now, they don't know each other, and they're all going to dig in.
He says you're going to get all the data from all the states. Only thing I ask is, did you? Did anybody? And now there's a jury trial, but we're not going to present any evidence of what happened. Did the machine change the votes? I love you all. I am headed to locals next. Please join me there. Watch the chats for the link while we get set up. Take care.
Do you have your copy yet of Jovan Hutton Pulitzer's bestseller Countdown to Chaos, The Silent Federalizing of Elections? November 3rd, 2020, something happened for the first time in history, and as a result, America became something many of us no longer recognize. But first, this book will make you mad, then sad, and then you are most likely to become pissed off. Anger is good, and feelings are good, if you know how to channel those feelings. This book will help you do that, but do not open this book if you can't handle the truth. If you just want to take the blue pill and stay in the matrix, that is your choice. The book is carefully researched and presented in chronological order. You will be taken on a journey back in time to see how the system and machine was devised, developed, manufactured, and deployed. Once you see it, your eyes will be forever open, and you will never be the same person again. You have been warned. Let's continue. On November 3rd, 2020, the world, your world, changed. The official counting of votes for our general election, specifically the votes being counted for president, was stopped at approximately 10:30 p.m. Red flags went up everywhere. Over the next few days, American voters sensed something was horribly wrong. The events of the month of November 2020 forever changed American history, American media, and social media, all, and were forever harmed, as was American voters' trust and confidence in our elections. As time passed, Joe Biden was sworn in, and America had descended into deep chaos. This book is a deep research dive into the who, what, when, where, why, and how of some critical questions such as, was this chaos intended or manufactured? What happened in the election when there was such a clear, bold movement for Donald J. Trump? How could someone like Joe Biden, who really did not campaign at all, and when he did there were only a handful of supporters present, ever win the election to become President of the United States of America? One side cried out, the election was rigged, and the other side shouted out, you're poor losers, or there is no such thing as election fraud. Americans became split even further and deeper at a time when we were already split more than ever before in modern times. To determine if there could ever be nefarious activities within American elections, we need to find solid, factual answers to questions which can no longer remain unanswered. Is there even any way to know the outcome of an election before the results are called? In fact, this question needs to be both asked and answered, because if anyone or any country was going to materially change the outcome of an American election, they would have to have some form of reasonable advanced knowledge of how the election was going at any one time. Is there even the remote possibility that bad actors could peek into our elections as they were in process? For the moment, let's say there was a way to see the pre-data of our elections across the United States. Is there even a way for our voting systems and machines to be compromised? Could votes even be changed after they were cast? Could votes be inserted into our machines? Even if a bad actor wanted to undermine the American elections, how could they ever do it? Would we ever be able to detect such egregious and nefarious violations of the American voting systems? Wouldn't it take thousands of criminals to pull something like that off? How could it even be done when the media tells us there is no such things as election fraud? Why, if so many people and professionals have looked, has no hard evidence ever come to light? You need facts. You'll need answers. Find those answers in Jovan Hutton Pulitzer's bestseller, Countdown to Chaos, The Silent Federalizing of Elections.